In this video, I'll be turning that new Optimus Prime set into something very special. An alt build that fixes a lot of the issues that I had with the original model. This video is also brought to you by Skillshare. More on those guys later. So a couple of weeks ago we took a look at Optimus Prime, and I wouldn't say that I was massively happy with him. Even doing the 5 mods that I wanted to do to him didn't really improve that boxy look that I really wanted to get rid of, making that silhouette just look awful in my opinion. And I know a lot of people disagree with my opinion on the whole 2-in-1 aspect. I think a lot of people who may have put that as their comment were blinded by the fact that they were looking at this particular set. Of course I wasn't talking about this particular Prime and then taking this one apart and turning it back into the truck. The transforming aspect of this set is definitely one of those more interesting things that separates this set from a lot of others. The thing that I was particularly disappointed about was the fact that the proportions didn't look like they should have done. And even though, yes, I know that this set was probably heavily based on the G1 toy, even though I said that in my previous video, a lot of people like to skip over that bit, even just using the amount of pieces from the Optimus Prime figure himself could turn this into such an amazing model.
I am Optimus Prime. We are here. We are waiting.
Now yes, believe it or not, this is an alt build, and this is what I was talking about when I said that I wanted a LEGO version of Optimus Prime. Now I know he does look slightly different from his normal G1 counterpart, but this is actually based on the IDW version of Optimus Prime, but never mind that, this is an amazing model. And before we go through the details on this model, I just want to say, this is what I meant when I meant a 2-in-1 model. This is an alt build. This can be built out of all of those pieces that you can get from Optimus Prime. And the best part about this is that if you wanted to, in a couple of years, I could destroy this and completely rebuild the original version, turning it back into that truck, which I do feel is a very good model. And for the people who are out there who did buy 2 of these, I'm sure this model would look sick next to a truck mode version of Optimus Prime. And I'm sure with a few extra pieces, you could make that truck mode look a lot more like the one they do from the IDW comics. But I'm getting ahead of myself. This version of Optimus Prime is just flat out way better. No, he doesn't transform, and I know that's going to be a big thing for a lot of people, but you can't deny that this version of Optimus Prime looks a hell of a lot nicer than the boxy version that we got with the transformable version. And if you ask me, it loses one charm of the transformation aspect, but gains another in the fact that it's just a really awesome model, and the proportions look great. Not only that, this model actually now is bigger than things like Voltron, something I really wasn't expecting considering the original Prime was so short. And that is one thing that surprises a lot of people. This is an alt build only using one Prime set. This model was designed by my good buddy Ransom Fern, and even though this model is taller than the original Optimus Prime, it doesn't feel weaker in really any respect. Yes, there are certainly some interesting techniques on this model that does make it a more challenging build than the original Optimus Prime, but if you ask me, the outcome is just incredible. And I want to go through some of the details on this model so you guys can make the decision if you guys want to build this yourself. But before I talk about that, I want to talk to you about Skillshare. Now, I've talked about these guys before on my channel, and trust me when I say I've used Skillshare before they were even sponsoring me. Skillshare is the #1 place to go if you're interested in learning anything new. They have a multitude of different courses ranging from anything like illustration to music, calligraphy, and so much more. I spoke last time about learning this course from Jazza, a creator in this space that also has some Skillshare courses teaching all about YouTube management and how to talk to camera. Some tips even I picked up filming a video that's coming out later this week. It's just a perfect platform for refining skills. I now want to learn all about organization and time management, more skills which I think I could be better at. Skillshare is also ad-free, so you don't have to worry about any of that either. While I was even looking at some other courses, I stumbled upon this one by Lucas Ridley, teaching you how to make a trench run style Star Wars animation all made out of Lego bricks. He takes you through everything from learning how to download the 3D models that you'll need to animating them using things like your iPhone. It's a really interesting watch, and anybody into Lego stop motion or animation should definitely try this one out. New courses are added to Skillshare every week, so there's always going to be something new for you guys to learn. And the best part is the first 1,000 of you to click my link in the description below will get to try Skillshare for free for 1 month. So you're losing nothing by clicking that link. Thanks to Skillshare again for sponsoring this one. Let's get back to Prime. the head is actually much bigger than the previous head, and although it doesn't use that really nice printed piece with the eyes on it, instead using 1x1 tiles, I think the head is a much better size, making those 1x1 tiles look much more well proportioned than say putting 1x1 tiles on the previous head, which I have seen some people do. It also really helps the proportions on the faceplate. Instead of just having the side of a plate as the blue pieces on the side of the head, this one gives a nice sloped look to the head, really rounding out the face, which I feel makes it look much nicer. This head is once again on the same sort of ball joint, but because you don't have the head constantly wanting to fold back, I find this head falling off a lot less than the previous model did. Moving on to the chest plate, this time this chest just does not flat out open. Unlike the really cool detail on the previous Prime where you could open the chest and show off the matrix of leadership, that feature is just non-existent on this model, but instead you get a much nicer, well-proportioned body which has the iconic details of Optimus Prime done in a more elegant way. Even down to the interior of the chest looking through the windows, where you can see Ransom has showed off some of those really nice metallic details that you get in this set. Even the chest is just full of detail, and not only that, every single panel on this chest is somehow angled in a way that I thought wasn't possible with Lego bricks. But with the help of a lot of hinge plates, brackets, and hook and clip pieces, the model again feels very solid and looks incredible. Even managing to fit on there a really nice solid waist joint, which helps when trying to pull off some fantastic poses you can get with this guy, such as the pointing pose, even poses holding his gun, but once again you do have the harsh reality of Lego's ratchet joints and them just not being very strong at all. But this model really does fix a lot of the issues I had with the previous Prime. But then again, it's not perfect. I do have some issues with this Prime, and I do feel I want to let you guys know that in case you wanted to build this yourself. For starters, there's a very questionable technique in the center of the chest, which I would deem as illegal. It will stress out a 1x2 plate that's in the middle of that chest, but if you ask me, Lego have done worse in official sets, so I give this one a pass. Like I said before, this is a very solid model. However, I will say that there are a few more gaps than I would like on this model, and that's purely just due to the fact that you don't have a lot of pieces when you're limited to just using a set. I've spoke with Ransom Fern about designing this model, and it's a lot more evident from the back than it is the front. Now, if I'm honest, no one's going to be seeing it from this angle anyway, so it doesn't particularly matter, and if I'm honest, I think it looks way better than it could have done, but there are obviously a few things like the gigantic wheels in the back of his leg, and just some occasional gaps around the model. These are obviously not very difficult to fill in yourself, and considering it's a mock, you are perfectly happy to do that, but all of these issues I feel just come down to the case of it being limited to an official set, and considering the height difference of this Prime to the original, I'll give a 1x1 gap considering how good this guy looks. There are also a few easily color swapped pieces, like there are these tan 1x3s at the top of his chest that I just can't unsee as soon as someone points them out. You're welcome, by the way. And unfortunately, once again, I think it's just due to the height of this model, but there is no knee joint. But the arms and waist joint do make up for this, considering that you don't really need to move the legs when all of his iconic poses are all done via the waist and arms. Even the shoulder pads have a much nicer range of motion. I seriously do think that this is a much nicer model to build, building experience wise, than the original Prime, especially for someone who likes a bit of a challenge when building a Lego set. I highly recommend building this version of Prime over the other one, considering I think this one looks 10 times better than the original one ever did. And let's be honest, a lot of people are going to be displaying robot mode anyway, and you're losing nothing by going and trying out Ransom Fern's model on this one. If you guys want to purchase his instructions, I will leave a link to the Rebrickable page in the description below. I also want to say that he's not paying me to make this video in any way. This is a video that I wanted to make because I love Optimus Prime, and also have built many of Ransom Fern's models now, so I think he's got a good reputation. I feel like he's done one of the best jobs representing the model in its true way. If you guys want to check out the last model I made of his, which was the Iron Man bust, soon to be the full Iron Man suit, that was a fantastic model before, and I can't wait to make the full suit. I'll leave the link on screen now for you guys to click on, and I will see you over there.